You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. As long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. As long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in.
Oh my goodness, here we are. It's live on LinkedIn, and it's Tuesday, not Monday, but it feels like a Monday because we've just had a long weekend. And I'm joined today by Tracy Irwin. Hello, Tracy. How are you?
Hi, Ashley. How are you?
I'm buzzing, you can see. This is quite weird because we meet up every week, don't we?
We do. We meet on a Monday morning and we hold each other accountable for things we're going to do for the rest of the week. So it's nice to speak to you on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it makes a difference. Well, look, I was busy yesterday. I forgot to tell you we had a bank holiday on a Monday, so hopefully you weren't hanging. But for those people that don't know you, Tracy, give us a little bit of who you are and what you do, please.
Yeah, I've been an accountant for 30 years. I've been a business owner for 25. However, I sold my accountancy practice back in September 2024, and I'm now focusing on doing financial director packages for larger businesses. But I recognise there is a huge demographic out there that actually really need my expertise but can't afford a financial director. So I launched the Money Metrics Academy last week, which is what started our conversation off, which led to today.
Because the thing is, when you've got an accountability buddy, you share absolutely everything, the highs, the lows. Sometimes we're shouting at each other, sometimes we're hugging each other, but helping each other along the way. And so we had this little conversation, and I think the conversation went along the lines of, so do you track your numbers, Ash? And that was the face you got back, wasn't it?
As an accountability buddy, we don't sell to each other. That's not what that's there for. So it's not something we'd ever actually cropped up before. And I was like, just interested. It's like, what numbers do you track? Like, I'm just interested to see, because, you are my demographic as well. So it was kind of just interesting to see who I knew that were tracking those 6 magic numbers that we're going to talk about today.
6 magic numbers. Okay. So... Right. So this is something that every business owner should be doing. Is that right?
Yes. However new, however old, however big, however small, it is 6 numbers that will help every single business owner.
Right. Okay. So we're turning the tables now. So you're now interviewing me. Is that right? You're going to give me a bit of a grilling. Okay. Don't forget, though, whatever you say, all right, I've still got control here.
Sorry, Kind's my middle name. No, I'm always kind. So.
And I know that, and that's why I agreed to this. So nice one. Well, let's do it. Let's get started.
Simple one. Let's start with a simple one. So the question to you is, do you know how much you need to turn over every month before you go into profit?
Roughly, but I haven't checked it properly. So okay. Is that a maybe or a no?
If you've got a vague idea, you're still guessing, by the way. So there is a point, like a line in the sand. It's called a break-even point, and it's where you've made like 0 pence. So you've got like it's the moment you go into profit, not a moment more or not a penny less type thing. So it's that point, and so many people don't even know that. They're just plodding along and making sure. They don't know if their product, how many products they have to sell to be able to make that profit. And that's the point. It's turning numbers into numbers of clients, because numbers are so abstract to many people. But if you know how many clients you need to bring on board every single month before you go into profit, that's your starting point. So it's kind of, do you know? So can you turn that into clients? Do you know what your average client brings in?
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't. But the thing is, please miss. The thing is, because I run my business from this shed, All right.
Yep.
I haven't, and it's just me. I don't have a lot of outgoings like a lot of businesses do. So they've got to pay rent for the shop. They've got to pay electric and gas and things like that. Well, all of that's already here. I've got a shed and, I tap into the owner's electric and gas. So that's fine. I don't have any staff, so I don't have to worry about that. But if I had 3 or 4 staff and I had rent or lease and stuff like that, I've probably got to work until week 2 before I'm actually starting to make a profit. And so therefore it's highly important, isn't it? And I guess that's why I'm not tracking it so much.
It's still important to you.
No, I get that.
You've still got IT services, you've still got an accountant, you've still got insurance. There's all those things that need to go in to make sure that the actual money that's coming into your business is what's paying for those things and not your personal savings. So that's important. So it kind of leads us on to the next question as well, is because you don't want to just make it break even, because that means you haven't actually made any money. I
could make more working in a shop in town, couldn't I?
You could. Yeah. So my next question to you is, do you know either the turnover you need or the amount of clients you need to be able to take home your desired income every single month?
I'm getting there. So I'm saying if I have 4 clients a month, it's a good month. And if I do that month in, month out, that's
okay. Yes. So the secondary question to that is, when you think about your desired income, do you include your personal tax in that? Because that's the one thing I see so many people not doing. They think, I just want to take, like, let's say £3,000 out my business every month. They work that out, and then they get to the end of the month, they spent all the money, and then a tax bill comes. And then what happens is it goes back into, because they take it back out the business. So when you're doing this figure, you need to make sure it's your gross that you're taking, so you include, and that only needs a one telephone conversation to your accountant, by the way, is if I take X amount per month, actually what's that gross to me? So I've got my tax saved at the end of the year.
So if I using your £3,000, if I say £3,000 and it's 3,600 or 3,800 or whatever,
it's about 3,600. Exactly that. Well done.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. That makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. So they're the two kind of like ones for mindset, because if you don't actually know those two figures, you don't know how many clients to look for. You could just be, you've got no targets or anything. So the third one is, we're going to talk about bank balances. And so many people talk about their bank balance, but do you actually know how much free cash is in your business? So when you look at your bank balance, do you think that's what you've got? Or do you monitor what your liabilities are before you look at what the cash is?
Definitely not. Okay. I do a bit of work with the Profit First guys, and one of their members turned around to me and explained it in very simple terms so I could understand.
Awesome.
Basically, what I've started doing now is taking a little bit from each bit of income that I get, and I'm putting it into a new space in my bank account. So that's something I'm doing, but it's just a line in the sand, a finger in the air sort of thing. So you're saying I should be putting more money away?
It's like having a business reserve, and obviously, like, the bigger the business is, the more they should be reserving. But like, if something happened, like COVID again, for instance, if you've not got 3 months of a buffer to be able to like pay everything that you need to do in the business, then it's just a sensible thing to do. But people look at bank balances and think, oh well, I've got that's what I've got. But it isn't, because you've got taxes to pay. You've probably got a few suppliers, even if you have it, especially if you have got employees, by the way, you've got employee liabilities that you've by law you've got to pay. So it's kind of like, so monitoring your cash, your free cash in your business, it's called a business buffer, is so important, because if that's going down all the time as well, you've got a problem in your business because you're not actually making enough money. So it's kind of another thing to have a red flag if something's going wrong. That's what it's about, finding things that are going wrong in your business to fix it immediately, rather than when your accountant tells you 12 months later.
All right. So you're saying about these numbers, how often shall I be looking at these numbers, Tracy?
A month is like, every month is probably the best time. I look at my financial numbers probably once a month, but I look at my marketing numbers, which we're going to get onto in a minute. I look at them weekly. So I check everything weekly because it's too much to look at in like once a month. So it's not. I mean, when I look at social media, I look at my best performing stuff once a month because that's not so important. But when I look at like how often, we might as well go on to that metric now. So when I look at how much a client costs me to bring in, I look at time and I look at money. And so when you're because you do a lot of like online work, and the things that are bringing in you clients is time consuming, but do you monitor actually, how many networking events do you go to? How many one-to-ones do you get from those networking events? How many from those one-to-ones, how many people do a discovery call, and then how many people come on board? Because actually that's as important as seeing how much meta ads are costing you, how many pay-per-clicks, and then how many people come on board. Do you have any? So, do you track any of that kind of stuff? Even if it's all together, by the way, that's better than nothing.
So if you're listening on the podcast, you could tell Tracy started informing me and then she started laughing. That's because she's looking at me smiling, which gives the game away as no, I don't track any of that. This is brilliant. Look, we're 10 minutes in and I've already learned so much. So thank you, Tracy.
Yeah. So it's really important to track everything. So like every single week, I go online, I see how many new connections I've made on LinkedIn. Then I look back and see like how many new like members we've got, how many one-to-ones I did, how many networking events I did, because and I track different types of networking as well, because if you all just lumped it into one, you would not get to know which networking events are working for you. Whereas if you're going to ones regular, like to have them separate, you'd actually get to know which ones are working for you, and then you can concentrate on them much more and get rid of the stuff because it is time consuming to grow your business through networking. But for small businesses, usually it's the best way because people buy from people. So it's a kind of a catch-22. And then like the cost and it is a cost per client. So if you know your hourly rate, then actually your cost to acquire a client, even through networking, as well as if you do it through paid ads. And it's most important that when you're doing the paid ads to keep them separate as well, because if you're doing like social media content, even that's still time, by the way, it's still a lot of your time. But if you're doing social media ads, you need to track which platform is working for your ads. If you just stick it all together, then yes, you will understand your cost per client to acquire a client, but you won't understand which ones are better. So the reason why knowing your cost per client to acquire a client is so important is because then you know how much you can spend on your marketing. So if you don't know your cost to acquire a client, you don't know whether you're actually making profit or not. And that comes from understanding the lifetime value of a client. So my question to you again would be, do you know how long a client stays for? Do you actually track when they come on? It's quite easy, this one as well, but it's the one I get most pushback from, by the way, is the average lifetime of a client. Because people say, I don't have an average client. I'm like, yes, you do. Everybody does. When I owned an accountancy, I had some clients that were on self-assessment that just paid me £250 a year. That was it. And then I had some clients on my financial director thing that would pay me £1,000 a month. But when we consolidated it into an average for the first couple of years, I didn't believe it would work. I was like, this isn't going to work, because it seemed quite small, the number. But honestly, I monitored it in two different ways for 3 years. I monitored the average and then I monitored the actual. And every single year, the average was not that far out. It really wasn't that far out. So it's what I get most pushback when I talk about things. And it's different for each type of business, but it's quite easy to track because especially if you've got like a subscription model, because you track when they started and you continue to this month, and you've got an average of how long people have stayed with you for. If you're like a health business type thing, then it's slightly harder to track because it's how many times the patient comes back. So let's if we go with a chiropractor, for instance, it's how often do they visit in a month, and then again, how long do they actually stay for as well. So it's easy to do once you've actually got the systems up and running, and it's so important because if a chiropractic session only costs £40 and you think, 70 quid to get one client's a lot of money. But actually, if you work out the lifetime value of a client, and that client over their lifetime span with you brings in £3,900, suddenly £70 is not a lot of money anymore. And that's why it's so important, because knowing the lifetime value of a client allows you to spend more money and to outspend your competition who isn't spending that much money because they don't understand the lifetime value of a client. So that's kind of where that one is.
That's a great point there, because some businesses are one and done.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas others, it's all about the ongoing, and accountancy is a brilliant example, because if you get a good accountant, you're going to stay with them forever. And so that if your average client stays with you for 10 years, it's 10 times the annual fee.
My average when I sold TI Accountancy was 58 months.
Right. Okay.
I knew that to the month. Some people have been with me for over 50. I sold fees. Those people have been with me for like nearly 20 years.
Wow.
It was a hard decision to make, but the average was 58 months. And knowing that made my being able to monitor my marketing and knowing how much to spend was much easier.
Yeah. Okay. So at the moment, I've only just turned it into a monthly model, so it's early. So it's early days. But yeah, what I do in my business, I train people and let them go out into the world. And I've literally just started a monthly model where I can give them more assistance for a nominal monthly amount, as opposed to what I charge them up front. But that's building into a nice little community. And so we'll see how that goes, and the people keep renewing, and then I'll get an idea of what that lifetime value actually is. So that's an interesting figure for other people like me, because there's a lot of businesses like mine that just do a one and done, and then that's it. So do we then create a community? Do we then create a monthly membership? And it's those sorts of things that we need to think about to keep the business going. And if I end up with quite a few monthly members, then I don't need to go and get so many new clients. So then that makes it easier as well.
It is. And it's like so many people concentrate on trying to get in new clients all the time, where it's actually cheaper to be just good customer service to retain them. We were talking about this about estate agents the other day, because I look after a few estate agents that are franchisees, and we talk about how the big ones don't feel like customer service is a big thing to them. And theirs is a one-off, by the way, because you don't buy a house very often. But their lifetime value from a client comes from referrals. So if they treat their clients like VIPs, those clients will go on to say to all their friends and family, as soon as somebody says, I'm buying a house, they're going, go to such and such. They were absolutely brilliant. Or most likely, they'll say, don't go to such and such because they were absolutely awful. They dragged their feet. They never kept me, there's no communication with them. And big estate agents don't get this. I don't understand, because they can be so bad. But the smaller ones that are franchisees tend to get it. They're building communities. They're building the retention of their clients rather than trying to get new clients in all the time, because they understand that referrals are going to be big for them. So yes, it is harder to do the number. So for instance, if we take a videographer as an example, I went to the videographer that did the video for the Time Freedom Alchemist website 2-3 years ago, and I only went back to him recently. So how does he quantify what my lifetime value is, because I might not go again for another 3 years. But I think as your business grows, you can kind of see the average projects that people are going to come to you. And like I say, estate agents are at one end of the scale because they're massive. It's like, not many people move quite often, but you do get lifetime of value, because if you do a really, really good job, you've got to put those referrals in, because that is your retention.
Yeah, I love that. I've written that down as well. I'm actually writing loads down. I don't normally write things down in my show, so this is a real education for me. And you're quite right. It is about creating those raving fans that then go and do other amazing things for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you understand your lifetime value of a client, you can know how much, you'll understand better what little things you can do in your community to make them feel special and stay longer. So if you just see them as like, if you don't understand that they're going to stay for X amount of time, and you think they're going, you've got in your head maybe that they're a 3-month turnaround. I know that's taking it right back, but you're not going to spend a lot to keep them. But actually doing little things and surprising them, like if they stay with you for a year, send them a cake, say thank you, for their loyalty. Like little stuff like that is a lot cheaper than what cost, the CAC is what people call it. It costs to acquire a client, which we talked about before. It'll be a lot cheaper than that. And it's about the relationships. But if you don't track your numbers, you don't know you don't know how much you can afford to do that. So yeah, it's a strange one. I mean, when my clients had big birthdays, we always sent them gifts, like just for big birthdays. Like, how many accountants do that? But I knew that it was filling that bucket back up to retain them. So yeah, it's more. I mean, the last number, by the way, because I know if anyone's in numerical in this, listen to this, we've only talked about 5. So I just want to quickly go on to the last one, because it's slightly different for you, because it is the employee to turnover ratio. And people who work on their own don't tend to need it, but it is important, because it's understanding whether you can actually afford to take on an admin person or a bookkeeper. So it does work for that, but it's more about people who want to employ. So like if it's a bookkeeper, whether wanting to employ another bookkeeper so that they can run the business rather than be doing the do. And in a service industry, the ratio is usually about 3 to 1. So when you take on an employee, they should be generating you, if they're a productive member of staff, by the way, they should be generating you about 3 times their income. I never ever got to that. That's an industry, standard for service industries. But when I was running a bookkeeping company, I could never get to that. As soon as we got to 2.6, 2.7 ratio, my team was screaming at me that they were too busy and that we needed to take somebody else on. So it's understanding your industry and standard, as well as like the whole sector. Because in manufacturing and hospitality, it's 6 to 1. Because there's a lot more materials are included in that. But they are the two kind of points. And it's so if you do have a team, if you've got 3 or 4 members of a team, check to see how much, like add up all your staff costs. And by that, I mean exactly what they cost you. So not the net, so their gross salary, they add the national insurance, the employer's national insurance and the employer's pension to that, and any benefits you give them. And then times that by 3 and see if that hits your turnover. And if it doesn't, then they're probably just not being productive, by the way. There's probably a bit more scope for you to add stuff in. But then and you also know when they're at the other one. So as soon as it got to 2.6, I know they're going to about to scream at me because they want somebody else to work for us, but I'm already in the background thinking about, how to advertise and stuff, because I've been checking every single month to see the productivity rise.
I've had to mute. There's work going on outside. I don't know if you can. It hasn't come over. That's good.
No, it hasn't.
So there's a load of numbers. If anyone's watching and they've got any questions for Tracy, we've got a few minutes that we can go in and investigate that. So check all these numbers on a monthly or a weekly basis. How? Yeah. What's the most efficient way of tracking these numbers?
You know what? I use a simple spreadsheet. I really do just use a spreadsheet, and I've got different tabs for different numbers. With my FD clients, I bring it all together into one spreadsheet as well, and like have meetings in the Money Metrics Academy. We teach people how to do these themselves. I'm doing a webinar tomorrow, so that if anybody does want to know actually where these numbers are in their own accounts, I actually go into that tomorrow and explain what the formulas are to find them, if anyone's interested. And yeah, it is monitoring it on and just holding yourself accountable. Get yourself an accountability buddy for the numbers and tell each other what they are every week, because actually I won't make you do that, don't worry.
No, I think it might be a good idea. It might be a good idea. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know on a Monday morning what my networking numbers are. So if you do that too, we could definitely share that. That's not a problem. And it is just knowing, and because it stops you guessing and helps you to grow, because you make much better business decisions when you actually know the numbers that are around that business decision. And I just want to educate more people to be able to do that. That is my passion. I just want to help more people to be able to understand that they're the person, they're their own bottleneck that they're keeping there because of the education. And you do not have to be an accountant to understand these numbers. I've just proved they're not. I haven't talked about a P&L, a balance sheet, or anything today.
Thank goodness for that. Here's a thing. Here's an observation I've just thought of as we're chatting here. We've just had a bank holiday weekend in the UK, right? I bet you that pretty much everybody in the UK was checking the weather app on their phone the week running up to the bank holiday weekend. What is it going to be like? Should I be doing this? Should I be having a barbecue? Am I going to be able to go to the beach? All these different things that we're checking and monitoring, yet we don't check and monitor our numbers.
Which is, it's the foundation of your business. What I see is when people start to grow and their bank balance starts to deplete, the first thing they do is they chuck money at marketing. And yes, it's the answer eventually, but if your numbers don't add up and you haven't got a viable business, by trying to grow through marketing, the only certainty is you'll go bust sooner because the cracks grow with you. So actually having that foundation of knowing what numbers you've got going on, then actually you've got a solid foundation to then chuck as much money as you want at marketing, because you know what the outcome's going to be. And that is the key, isn't it? It's about the growth strategically rather than just chucking some mud at the wall and hoping for the best.
I was chatting to someone recently, and they were spending £1 million a month on LinkedIn ads.
Wow.
Yeah, it's eye-watering, isn't it? But they were getting millions in as a result of that. So their cost to acquire a client was X, but they were bringing X times 10, 15, 20. I don't know what the numbers were. Yeah. And you know, we just look at £1 million in LinkedIn ads, but it's nothing if it's bringing in you bucket loads. And if you know all these other numbers, then you know that it's worth spending. And so basically, how can we spend 2 million on LinkedIn ads? Because imagine how many more clients we're going to get.
100%. I watched Jimmy Carr at an awards ceremony once for the Entrepreneur Circle, and this guy got an award because he'd spent, I think it was like £3,000 on Facebook ads, and he got like, I think it was like, I can't remember, about 50,000 in from that. And everyone was clapping. And Jimmy Carr, I think he's a very intelligent man, went, whoa, 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 whoa. No, what are we clapping him for? If he could get 60 from £3,000, why is he not spending 6? Why is he not spending 12? And everyone was like, that's the point. Like, once you know the numbers and it is tracking everything so you know what's working. This gentleman could definitely just grow his business by taking what he'd got the 3,000 from, doubling it, and then doubling his turnover, which, you know, more than double his profits, unless his gross profit margin is less than 50%. But we're not talking about P&Ls today.
No, thank you. You'll spare that for the next one. Tracy, it's been an absolute delight to have you on. It's not as scary as I was making it in my head, but I knew it wasn't going to be scary because you are lovely. Tell us a little bit about this webinar. How can we get to be on it and understand a little bit more?
Underneath, in the comments, I'll put a link on the webinar for the webinar. And I'll also give everyone free access to the community. So there's 6 numbers in there. There is 6 short videos in my community which people can see. So I'll also put the community link on there as well. If anyone wants to join the Circle community, you can ask me any questions on there.
Fantastic. Awesome. Right, before I say goodbye, I'm just going to have a quick shout out to the lovely Louise McGill, who's going to come on next week and start telling us all about why we need email lists, what to do, what's the difference between a lead magnet and a landing page, and all those amazing things. So yeah, I can't wait to have a good old chat with her. And we've got Saeed is saying what a great session we've had. And he's turning around and saying £1 million on LinkedIn. And then if we compare the cost of ads on LinkedIn and other platforms, what do you say as LinkedIn ads are a bit expensive compared to other platforms? Yes, you're quite right, Saeed. They are, but if they deliver the results, they are worth absolutely every penny, especially what we've just been talking about. Hey, Tracy, anything to say on that?
No, I think it's exactly right. So if you get more return on your investment, even though they're more expensive, then you would just continue with that platform. And I think that's the mindset. People think they're expensive because they're lumping everything together. But if you do it separately to show like the difference between Meta ads and LinkedIn ads, and then see which one you get a better return on your investment for, and go and just spend more money on them.
Brilliant. Get Jimmy Carr applauding us as well. Tracy, thank you very much indeed. You've been an absolute superstar. I will see you next Monday. Everybody else, I will see you Monday when I've got Louise.
Along with your networking numbers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tracy. Cheerio.
Thank you.
And this is where the video wasn't there. Here we go.
You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win.